As I spent time with my 20-year-old son after our gym session, I couldn't help but notice a shift in the air, a moment that hinted at deeper truths, reminiscent of a tale of betrayal. As dawn broke over the quiet suburbs, an unexpected hush enveloped the neighborhood. In the background, a gentle murmur of passing cars drifted in from the highway, while the birds outside filled the air with their ceaseless conversations. Yet today, it felt as though time itself had come to a standstill, leaving Madison in solitude with her swirling thoughts. In the heart of the kitchen, she lingered, her fingers gliding over the smooth, cool surface of the granite countertop, lost in thought. Her hand halted as the coffee maker crackled to life, a sound that typically faded into the background but resonated loudly in the stillness of the morning. Madison cherished this moment, when the house stirred from its slumber, allowing her to imagine that life had finally aligned perfectly, just as she had always envisioned. The room was bathed in light from the expansive window, its warmth gently enveloping her, chasing away the lingering shadows of nighttime worries. In this very house, crafted over the years, she had woven her dreams of tranquility, yet serenity often faced a lurking danger. The danger that prolonged contemplation might unearth past scars. Please subscribe to Secrets Unveiled 88 channel so we have the motivation to produce more videos. With a steaming cup of coffee in hand, she turned her gaze toward the inviting sofa in the living room. There, nestled comfortably, was Jaden. His chest rose and fell gently beneath a thin t-shirt, while his legs, too long for the sofa, dangled over the edge, creating a scene that spoke of comfort and ease. Each time her gaze fell upon him, a curious blend of pride and yearning stirred within her. Once upon a time, there existed an authentic grown-up. Yet, in her gaze, he was forever the boy she had embraced under the stars to banish his nighttime terrors. Yet today, as she gazed upon him, a different feeling stirred within her. A presence that feels out of place. "Hey, are you planning to drift off into dreamland for the entire day?" She endeavored to infuse her voice with a sense of playfulness that didn't quite match her true feelings. Jaden cracked one eye open, a slow smile spreading across his face as he stretched his limbs with a languid grace. The gesture flowed effortlessly, drawing her attention to his hands, sculpted from countless hours at the gym, and to the way his t-shirt subtly lifted, unveiling the curve of his stomach. It was merely a fleeting instant, enough, yet it struck her with the chill of a winter's breath. With a gentle hum, he let his eyelids flutter shut once more. "Just 5 more minutes, Mom. I earned them." "You've gained more than just 5 minutes," she whispered to herself, yet, within her words lay a deeper truth than she dared to acknowledge. Madison averted her gaze, placed her mug gently on the table, and gazed out the window, lost in thought. Something felt amiss this morning, as if the world had tilted just half a degree, leaving everything in a subtle disarray. A peculiar thrill coursed through her veins. Not anxiety but a flicker, gently glowing in the depths within. As she cast her gaze back to the sofa, she found Jaden already upright, his fingers combing through his disheveled hair. "What shall we embark on today?" he inquired, his voice carrying the remnants of slumber, still a touch hoarse. Once upon a time, there was a remarkable individual known simply as she. Did not respond immediately. In that instant, Madison came to understand the source of her unease. It wasn't the dwelling, nor her existence, nor even the musings within her mind. It was him. His gaze lingered just a bit too long, his voice carried an extra touch of warmth, and his presence felt almost tangible in the hush of dawn. "Have you sensed the stillness that surrounds us?" she requested to conceal her musings. "I'm uncertain." With a casual shrug, he rose to his feet. His movements flowed with a certain languid grace, yet there was an undeniable assurance in them that captured her attention. "Perhaps silence holds a deeper meaning." "Perhaps," she echoed, yet there lingered a hint of uncertainty in her voice. That morning, as Jaden strolled by, their shoulders barely grazing, she sensed a spark of something forbidden. She whispered to herself that it was merely the morning, that it was simply her weary mind playing tricks, deceiving her. Yet, within her heart, Madison sensed that today held a unique promise. Madison lingered by the window, her gaze drifting over the backyard. The morning fog lingered, gently lifting to reveal the trees, cloaked in a delicate veil of mist. Her fingers quivered ever so slightly as she cradled her coffee cup. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting, something elusive, barely noticeable, yet already present, close at hand. Footsteps echoed behind her. It seems you're not quite in your usual spirit today. Jaden's voice wove through her mind, drawing her away from her swirling thoughts. He wore a gray t-shirt and jeans that embraced his toned physique. In his hands, he cradled a mug devoid of contents. It's not often that you find yourself rooted in one spot for such an extended time. Madison turned, catching sight of the subtle smile that danced upon his lips. His eyes, filled with warmth and curiosity, rested on her face just a moment longer than necessary. She gazed into the distance, lost in thought, as she softly spoke. As she strolled over to the coffee maker to top off his mug, she could sense his eyes lingering on her every move. A peculiar sensation washed over her, unlike anything she had felt in the past. Yet the thought darted through her mind in an instant. Excessively near. What thoughts are swirling in your mind? He inquired, propping himself against the table. His voice flowed gently, reminiscent of a guide coaxing you to share your deepest thoughts. Regarding us, she replied before she could hold back. She placed his mug on the table, carefully sidestepping any clatter. Engage with unwavering gaze, reflecting on the journey we've undertaken, the challenges we've faced, and the growth we've experienced. Jaden let out a dismissive snort and shook his head in disbelief. Dear Mom, you truly deserve a moment of tranquility and serenity. Your efforts have truly paved the way for all that has come to be. With a graceful wave of his hand, he gestured towards the expansive kitchen, the very heart of the home that had transformed into their sanctuary. Madison smiled, yet her eyes remained untouched by the warmth of her expression. And what tale do you have to share? Isn't it time you claimed all of this for yourself as well, worthy? With a hearty chuckle, he raised his cup and savored a sip of his coffee. It sounds as if you're suggesting I've experienced a loss. I have an appreciation for all things. So should you. She gazed at him, poised in his confidence, a calm exterior masking an undercurrent of unease, subtly revealed by the way he gently swayed the mug in his hand. He appeared calm, yet beneath the surface, a different tale unfolded. Do you ever hold back the thoughts that swirl in your mind? Choosing not to share every single one, she inquired all at once. Her own voice resonated with an unexpected gravity, even to her own ears. Jaden stood still, caught in a moment of suspense. His gaze locked onto hers, and the atmosphere thickened with tension, dense like the fog that enveloped the world outside. He finally confessed, his gaze dropping to the ground. And what about you? Madison sensed a tightening in her heart. The moment hung in the air, thick with an intimacy that felt almost too profound to bear. She faced a choice, to respond with honesty or to veil her feelings in a playful jest once more. Yet an inner voice urged her that today was not a day for concealment. At last, she responded, though not every time. At times, the weight of words feels heavier than the comfort of silence, leaving emotions unspoken and thoughts lingering in the air. Jaden gazed at her, as though she had just unveiled a door to a chamber he dreaded to enter. Go on, speak it, he murmured. His voice flowed softly, steady and serene, yet beneath it lay an undeniable challenge. She swallowed, a dryness creeping into her throat. Jaden, there are moments when I feel as if I've misplaced something truly significant, something I cannot reclaim. He cast a frown, yet his gaze remained steadfast. Are you speaking of father? Madison averted her gaze, a gentle shake of her head conveying her thoughts. Not him. I released that a long time ago, yet she turned back, locking eyes with him. Once upon a time, there was a tale waiting to be told about you, about how our bond has deepened to a point where it feels almost surreal. Those words lingered in the air, heavy and charged, like a storm waiting to unleash its fury. Jaden appeared puzzled, yet there was no hint of disgust in his expression. He placed the mug on the table and stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you believe that's truly unfortunate? Are we really that close? She hesitated, unable to respond immediately. Her heart raced, a wild rhythm that outpaced her thoughts, leaving her struggling to weave them into words. She started to speak, but her words faded as he took another step, narrowing the space that separated them. Now they stood so close that she could sense the warmth radiating from him. At times, all that remains is the bond we share, he remarked. His voice resonated as if he were weaving a tale not solely about her, but also reflecting his own essence. Her fingers danced along the edge of the countertop, a nervous rhythm, as she gazed into his eyes, which held an inexplicable allure that drew her in. She sensed the world around her come to a standstill, her breath weaving through the stillness. Jaden, we must tread lightly, she whispered. shattering the stillness of the moment. Her voice quivered, yet her gaze remained fixed on his face, unable to look away. What prompts this question? His question was straightforward, almost innocent, yet it carried an undeniable challenge. As she averted her gaze, she searched for the perfect words to express herself. At times, we must draw lines to safeguard our own well-being. He lingered for a moment, as if savoring her words, then took a step back and nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, you are correct, he replied, his tone unexpectedly gentle. Yet, there are moments when it seems we've ventured beyond that threshold. Madison remained motionless, her gaze fixed on him, words escaping her grasp. As he pivoted and exited the kitchen, an unusual void settled within her. She yearned to reclaim everything, yet simultaneously, she sensed that an unchangeable transformation had occurred. She lingered by the window, her gaze fixed on the horizon as the sun climbed higher, casting away the last whispers of the fog, yet within her, something lingered, as dense and enigmatic as the dawn that had set everything in motion. As the evening descended, Madison's home resonated with a symphony of sounds, the gentle hum of the television mingling with the soft crackle of a flickering candle graced the kitchen table, illuminating the space where she sat, her laptop open before her, yet, her mind wandered to distant realms. She attempted to concentrate on her tasks, yet her eyes drifted to the living room, where Jaden reclined on the sofa, absorbed in his phone. He lay sprawled along the armrest, his t-shirt having ridden up once more, exposing a sliver of skin on his stomach. Will you spend the day lounging about, or shall you embark on an adventure and make something of it, with a playful quip? She sought to lighten the heavy atmosphere that weighed on her heart. Jaden remained engrossed in his phone, yet a subtle smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. How unfortunate it would be, if not for the delightful twist of your sarcasm. Sarcasm is my second language, she replied, rising from the table and making her way to the fridge. Within lay remnants of the previous evening's feast, a selection of fruit, and a bottle of white wine, waiting to tell their own tale. She paused, her hand hovering over the bottle, the thought of pouring herself a glass flickering in her mind like a fleeting shadow. Today was not the day to add to the troubles. Have you always carried this essence within you? He suddenly inquired, prompting her to pivot around. He gazed at her, his phone resting upon his chest, his eyes gleaming with an unusual curiosity. What do you mean? She inquired, pulling out an apple and sinking her teeth into its crisp flesh. One who maintains a firm grip on all things, even when the desire to let go is palpable, he responded, lifting himself on his elbows. His voice held no mockery or accusation, it was simply straightforward, leaving her throat dry. Someone must take on this task, she declared after a moment of reflection. Her voice flowed with a gentle warmth, more tender than she anticipated, perhaps not consistently. He simply shrugged, a gesture that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. At times, it's perfectly fine to allow yourself to unwind. Madison gazed at him, observing every detail. There lingered an unspoken weight in his tone, a hidden truth that wrapped around her like a shroud, leaving her feeling exposed and fragile. With a gentle click, she shut the fridge door and returned to her seat at the table, seeking to divert her mind from the weight of his words. Yet his gaze was tangible, akin to the warmth radiating from a candle inching too near. You don't want to simply linger at home all evening, he finally remarked, shattering the stillness. His voice carried an unexpected ease. If you think you can pull me to the gym, you might as well give up on that idea for now. She wore a smirk, yet her smile betrayed a hint of strain. Not the gym. He smiled once more, yet this time, his smile held a hint of something different. Perhaps we could consider the hot tub. It appeared that you found pleasure in it during our last encounter. Madison stood still, caught in the moment. Her heart fluttered momentarily, a pause before she summoned the courage to voice her thoughts. You said it wasn't your thing, she replied, her gaze fixed on the laptop screen, yet the words remained elusive, hidden from her sight. It? He rose from the sofa, a playful glint in his eye, and declared, I've changed my mind. Now is the moment we've all been waiting for. The warmth of the water envelopes you as the evening unfolds, a moment of perfection in the gentle embrace of twilight. She cast her gaze upon him, attempting to discern the sincerity in his expression, yet he was already making his way toward the stairs. Will you be joining us? he inquired, glancing back over his shoulder. Once more, she found herself captivated by the subtle challenge flickering in his eyes, an allure she simply couldn't overlook. With a heavy sigh, Madison set aside her laptop and trailed after him. She whispered to herself that it was merely a fleeting instant, reminiscent of the previous occasion. She held back, not wanting to let it spiral too far, yet her inner voice lacked the persuasive power she had wished for. Outside, a gentle coolness enveloped the air, yet the water in the hot tub embraced her feet, with an intensity that felt almost overwhelming as she dipped them in. Adorned in a black bikini, she struck a balance between modesty and style. A choice that wrapped her in a cloak of confidence. She observed as Jaden gracefully entered the water opposite her, positioning himself to gaze directly into her eyes. "So what do you think of it?" she inquired, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor. "Absolutely worth it," he remarked, reclining comfortably. His face softened, yet a glimmer in his eyes remained, one that she couldn't overlook. For a few moments, they lingered in quietude, savoring the gentle embrace of the water and the soft whisper of the wind. Yet, the tension that hung in the air between them grew almost palpable. "Is your confidence a constant companion?" In a moment that shattered the stillness, she posed her question. Her voice flowed with calm assurance, yet within her, a storm of uncertainty raged. Assured, with a raised eyebrow and a playful smile, he captured the moment perfectly. "Numbers fade away, yet in your presence, I am enveloped by a profound feeling, distinct." Her brow furrowed as she sought to grasp the meaning behind his words. "In what ways does it differ? Is it possible for me to truly be myself, unfiltered?" His words flowed effortlessly, yet within their simplicity lay a depth that tugged at her heartstrings. Madison averted her gaze, warmth creeping into her cheeks. She struggled to find the right words, as if they were caught in a web, refusing to escape her throat. "Rest assured, my commitment remains unwavering." "Be present, wouldn't you agree?" he declared, abruptly straightening his posture. His voice carried a weight of gravity, and his gaze held a compelling intensity. "I understand," she murmured, her gaze still averted from him, yet, those words seemed to lack the authenticity they required. She sensed that something was blossoming between them, an inexplicable force that eluded her comprehension and slipped through her grasp. "Well," he remarked, reclining once more, yet, the tension lingered in the atmosphere, dense as mist, wrapping around them completely. Madison understood the peril they were in, yet the urge to continue had become irresistible. The evening transformed. As night fell, the house was enveloped in a cloak of semi-darkness. The hot tub had long since cooled, yet its warmth still embraced Madison's body, a gentle reminder of the soothing moments spent within its depths. She perched on the edge of her bed, swathed in a towel, gazing out the window as the soft moonlight cast a gentle glow over the yard. Her mind danced with memories of Jaden and their peculiar, unfathomable exchange. All that she had sought to keep hidden within her was now erupting, leaving her feeling exposed, as if she were laid bare, not in body, but in spirit. A gentle knock at the door broke the silence, drawing her back from the depths of her musings. "Mother," Jaden whispered gently from beyond the threshold. His voice flowed softly, carrying a hint of hesitation. With a deep breath, she steadied herself, striving to maintain a calm voice. "Step inside." As the door creaked open, he crossed the threshold and entered the room. Clad solely in athletic shorts, he stood there, his hair still glistening with droplets from the shower. She observed the droplets of water shimmering on his collarbones. He appeared so different from the little boy she once embraced. The evening to banish his fears. Before her stood a grown man, and this realization struck her with the force of thunder breaking through a clear sky. "I wanted to talk," he said, stepping closer. "What is the tale about?" Her voice flowed with a gentle softness, perhaps more tender than she had meant it to be. Jaden perched on the edge of the bed, a touch nearer than she would have preferred. She sensed his warmth and observed the tension in his hands as they rested on his knees. "What can you tell me about yourselves?" he spoke, his gaze unwavering as he looked directly at. She was a captivating presence. His eyes held a compelling gaze, yet a flicker of uncertainty lingered within them. "Once upon a time, there was a character named Jaden." She averted her gaze, sensing her heart begin to quicken. "All is well in our world, all is well, my friend." Not in that way. He gently shook his head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. "I'm not discussing your perspective. I'm sharing the depths of my emotions." She stood still, caught in the moment. Those words, clear and powerful, sliced through the stillness like a sudden storm. Words eluded her. All that she had dreaded now loomed before her, taking shape in the very words that filled the air. "What do you sense?" At last, she mustered the courage to ask, her voice quivering with emotion. He confessed, a flicker of vulnerability in his voice, as his gaze danced across her features, lingering on her eyes. "And I sense that you experience it as well." Madison rose, as though seeking to flee from the weight of his words. She approached the window, gazing at the moonlight, as though it held the secrets she sought. "You don't understand what you're saying," she remarked, her arms crossed defiantly over her chest. "I grasp the depths of your thoughts more than you realize." His voice resonated with strength. "It's clear that we must address this matter directly, rather than continuing to ignore it." She faced him, sensing her walls beginning to fall away. "Is it all just an act, imagining myself as your mother? And I shouldn't even entertain the thoughts of what you're saying. Is it really wrong to pretend? Do you truly believe it's misguided?" he inquired, rising to his feet. His stature, his unwavering assurance. It all at once felt like a tempest, yet it beckoned her closer, weaving its spell around her. She gazed at him, words escaping her grasp. This transcended the realm of mere inquiry. It was a journey of discovery. A daunting challenge lay before her, one she felt unprepared to confront. "You're my mother indeed," he pressed on, taking a step nearer. "Yet, our bond transcends the simple labels of mother and son. Our bond has always set us apart from the rest. And I can't pinpoint the moment it shifted, yet I sense it as well." Her feet seemed to be anchored to the ground, as if the earth itself held her in place. He stood so near, his face bathed in the gentle glow of the moonlight, transforming him into a figure of maturity, a man rather than a mere child. "Jaden, we can't," she started, but her voice wavered, and the words slipped away. "What is the reason behind this?" he inquired, his tone soft yet compelling. "Is it because it's not right, or is it that you're hesitant? Fearing you might experience the same emotions I carry within me?" She sensed the atmosphere becoming dense, as if the entire universe was contracting to this instant, to this space. Her heart raced, as if it sought freedom from the confines of her chest. She swallowed, her voice trembling. "I'm at a loss for how to navigate this situation. In this journey, you are accompanied." His voice danced softly in the air, a gentle murmur that wrapped around her, easing her trembling with an undeniable assurance. "We shall navigate this journey, side by side." He extended his hand, gently resting it on her shoulder. The gesture wrapped around her like a warm embrace, kindling a fire deep within her soul. She yearned to create distance between them, yet found herself unable to do so. In that moment, she stood still, sensing her barriers shatter entirely. "Jaden, this is complicated," she murmured, her voice a soft whisper in the air. "At times, complexity holds its own charm," he responded, his hand gliding down, gently yet distinctly. She found herself at a loss for words. All that she felt, all that she yearned to express, was trapped within her, like a tempest ready to erupt. She sensed that they were poised on the brink of an uncharted realm, fraught with danger yet irresistibly captivating. And in that night, beneath the gentle glow of the moon, the quietude that enveloped them spoke volumes beyond what mere words could convey. The night enveloped the world in darkness, with the stillness of the house pierced solely by the gentle murmur of the wind outside. Madison nestled on the sofa in the living room, cocooned in a blanket, cradling a cup of tea in her hands. Her thoughts weighed upon her, dense and unyielding, much like a collection of stones. She attempted to immerse herself in the film flickering on the screen, yet nothing penetrated her awareness. Her mind was consumed by the words Jaden had spoken in her bedroom just a few hours prior. "In this journey, you are not solitary." Those words, soft yet brimming with conviction, lingered in her mind. She sensed the tremors against the fortress she had meticulously constructed over the years. In their simplicity lay a profound truth, one she feared to confront. She found herself in the company of others. It had never been. Jaden stood at the scene, a presence that seemed to weave through the fabric of the moment, forever. Yet, in that moment, the essence of closeness transformed into something entirely new. With a soft sigh, she lifted her cup to her lips, savoring the warmth of the tea, as she heard the familiar sound of his footsteps descending the stairs. The footsteps echoed through the stillness of the night, each one deliberate and assured, yet resonating too loudly in the quiet darkness. She kept her gaze fixed downward, even as her heart began to quicken with anticipation. "Are you still awake?" he inquired, standing in the threshold, unable to find rest. She responded, attempting to maintain a sense of tranquility, though her voice carried a gentler tone than normal. He approached, resting against the back of the chair. His hair had a charming disarray, as if the night had just released him from its embrace, yet his eyes sparkled with clarity, suggesting that sleep had eluded him as well. She observed, glancing aside, that you two were restless, unable to. He echoed her words, and a peculiar gentleness lingered in his voice. Madison set her cup aside and turned to him, her eyes sparkling with the promise of a tale waiting to unfold. He stood so near that she could perceive every nuance of his face. The glow of the television cast a vivid illumination on his face, accentuating the contours of his high cheekbones and the strength of his jawline. This was not the boy she had nurtured, but a man, and that understanding struck her heart once more. "Did you have something to share?" At last, she spoke, shattering the stillness that enveloped them. "I did." He took a moment, as though carefully selecting each word that would follow. "I was curious to know how you're holding up after that exchange." Her lips parted slightly, a moment suspended in time, yet words eluded her grasp. How could she convey to him the turmoil brewing within her, the tumult, the longing intertwined with remorse and trepidation? With a hesitant breath, she finally confessed her uncertainty. "And what about you?" "Who, me?" He offered a subtle smile, yet it lacked any hint of joy. "I'm uncertain as well. Yet there's one truth I hold firmly. This cannot be overlooked any longer, Jaden." Her voice carried a hint of desperation. "We must. It is not right. It's not right, do you see?" He lifted his eyes to meet hers, and within that gaze lay a depth that stirred a profound ache in her heart. "Oh, you believe it's wrong simply because that's what others claim. Is it right or wrong simply because that's how you feel?" Her breath hitched. She understood that he was resolute, unwilling to yield. His gaze pierced through the air, unwavering and commanding, leaving her unable to divert her eyes. "I don't know," she whispered, a hollow emptiness swelling within her, echoing the uncertainty that danced in the shadows of her mind. "I'm feeling a bit lost." "Then allow me to clarify," he said, stepping a bit nearer. His voice carried a soft timbre, yet it held a compelling urgency. "I understand this isn't solely for your benefit. It's not solely for our benefit, yet I sense it. Whenever I find myself in your presence. It cannot be overlooked." Madison closed her eyes, her hands gripping the edge of the blanket tightly. She found herself in a suffocating silence, her mind clouded and her breath escaping her grasp. Every fiber of her being urged her to halt, yet she struggled to summon the power to comply. "Are you grasping the essence of your words, at last?" she inquired, her eyes fluttering open. Her gaze held a deeper emotion, one that spoke of fear rather than blame. "I see what you mean." His voice resonated with strength. "And I sense that you experience it as well." She felt the urge to contest, to declare his error, yet the words remained lodged in her throat. In his eyes, she glimpsed a truth that beckoned her to pay attention. It was a yearning that transcended mere longing. It was more profound. "Jaden, we can't," she began, but he cut her off. "What prompts this question?" "Share with me just one reason why honesty eludes us," he said, gently grasping her hand. His fingers were warm, wrapping around like a gentle embrace. "What is it that makes you feel this way?" "For fear it might shatter all," she murmured, her voice quaking with uncertainty. "You are my everything. If we cross that line, it won't ruin us," he said, his voice even softer, yet all the more persuasive. "I shall hold on to you forever." "Not a chance." Her heart raced fiercely, each beat echoing in her temples like a drum, a vivid reminder of the intensity of the moment. She gazed at him, her eyes brimming with tears, yet she found herself unable to turn away. She finally confessed her fear. "I'm afraid of the emotions that stir within me." "Fear not." His voice, soft as a gentle breeze, carried a conviction that soothed her quaking heart. "Allow me to reveal that it's not as frightening as it seems." He leaned in slowly, and she sensed the warmth of his breath against her skin. She sensed that this was more than just a fleeting instance. It was a moment where the path ahead was irrevocably set, yet, rather than retreating, she surrendered to the moment, her eyes gently closing as she embraced what was unfolding. The morning unfolded, crisp and clear, with a chill in the air. The winter sun gently seeped through the curtains, casting a soft, almost comforting glow throughout the room. Yet, within the heart of Madison, a different tale unfolded. She perched on the edge of the bed, knees drawn close, her gaze fixed intently on a solitary spot on the floor. Her mind was a tapestry woven with the echoes of the previous night, memories swirling around her like restless spirits. Refusing to be banished from her thoughts, allow me to reveal that it's not as frightening as it seems. Jaden's words washed over her like a tide, his voice echoing in her mind, his confidence wrapping around her, leaving her utterly spent. She found herself in disbelief, grappling with the reality that she had allowed it to unfold, that she had ventured beyond a boundary she had vowed never to breach. The door let out a haunting creak as it swung open, revealing Jaden standing in the threshold. Clad in a simple t-shirt and sweatpants, his hair tousled as if he had just risen from a restless slumber, he wore a serious expression that hinted at the weight of unspoken thoughts. He halted in his tracks upon catching sight of her, and for a fleeting moment, an enchanting silence enveloped them both. "Are you all right? Once upon a time, there was a character known for his adventures." Her voice flowed gently, yet it carried an undercurrent of caution. "No," she replied, her gaze fixed elsewhere. Her voice carried a raspy quality, barely rising above a whisper. "I'm not okay, Jaden." This was all a mistake. His face twitched ever so slightly, yet his gaze remained steadfast, unwavering. He gently closed the door. They followed him, inching nearer, yet paused at a respectful distance. "What leads you to that conclusion?" he inquired, his voice steady, yet his eyes betrayed a deep sorrow. She gazed up at him. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "This is unraveling us, tearing apart the foundation we've painstakingly constructed over the years. It's not right, and deep down, you're aware of it, Mother." He started to speak, but she lifted her hand, halting him in his tracks. "You fail to grasp the essence of it all." Her voice trembled, a fragile whisper in the air. "I must put an end to this. I cannot allow myself to be without you. You won't lose me," he declared, stepping closer with a determined gaze. "Not a chance. The events that transpired do not alter the essence of our bond. It simply illustrates the significance we hold in one another's lives." "No, Jaden," she said sharply, rising to her feet. Her hands quivered with a subtle intensity. "It simply does not. It does not bring us nearer. It places us at the brink of an irreversible journey." He stood still, gazing at her with a look that shattered her heart. He sought to unravel her essence, searching for the right words to. He longed to offer her solace, yet he found himself unable to do so. "Did you really believe I wished to cause you pain?" His voice carried a hushed urgency, tinged with a hint of longing. "Do you believe I lack understanding? Do you understand the weight of this challenge upon you? For the two of us, this isn't about pain," she said, glancing away to the portal to the outside world. Her voice resonated with a strength she hadn't anticipated. "This tale unfolds around the essence of right and wrong, a line we both recognize and understand deeply, the line, 'Once upon a time, there was a figure known simply as he.'" Repeated, with a smile tinged with bitterness. "And who determines its location? Those who have never walked in our shoes. Who can truly understand the depth of our closeness?" Her breath hitched. She understood he was correct, that their connection had always run deeper than those of others, yet she was also aware it was not merely a justification. "We must pause," she declared, at last facing him once more. Her face held a firm determination, yet her eyes whispered of the turmoil within. "Should we fail to halt our course at this moment, we risk our very existence. But you are aware of that as well." He remained quiet, his eyes shadowed, yet he chose not to contest. He understood that her words held truth. Deep down, he had always sensed the truth within him. Yet, that did not ease the weight of the moment. "What comes next?" he inquired, his voice echoing with emptiness. "We continue on," she answered, striving to steady her voice against the quiver that threatened to escape. "You return to your life. I return to my own. Once upon a time, it's time to let this go. Let it slip away." He lifted his eyes to meet hers, and within that gaze, there was a depth that stirred a profound ache in her heart. Could that truly be within the realm of possibility? "We must make an effort," she declared, her fists clenched tightly to suppress the quaking within her. "It is the sole path to our salvation." He inclined his head, a gesture of quiet contemplation. Her words rang with undeniable truth, and he felt it deep within him, yet that did not ease the burden. He made his way to the door, pausing just before crossing the threshold. I don't regret it, he said softly, yet his words echoed with a weight that felt heavier than intended, not a single moment. With those parting words, he departed, leaving her solitary in the room, where the air hung thick and suffocating. Madison lingered by the window, her gaze fixed on the horizon as the sun climbed higher, casting away the last whispers of the fog. Yet within her, something lingered, dense and enigmatic, much like the dawn that had set everything in motion. She felt a deep certainty that her decision was the right one. It was the sole path she could take. At times, she reflected, to truly love someone is to understand the moments when it's time to release them. And even as this feeling lingered, she had to summon the strength to carry on with her journey, for her own journey. For Jaden. And for the future they earned, even if we are apart. She let out a soft sigh, her eyes fluttering shut, and in that moment, she experienced a profound and aching emptiness that seemed to stretch on for an eternity.